What's going on, boys and girls? Welcome to a new exciting Phenomenal Creations video effect tutorial. My name is VK. Thanks guys for stopping by. So today we're having a pretty cool effect on the table. We're doing the Zoom effect from the Flsh TV series. If you don't know it, definitely check it out. It's a good TV series running on Netflix and wherever. And yeah, and this particular request or tutorial was heavily requested after since I uploaded my own Flash effect tutorial. So people want to see how to do the bad guy, the Zoom effect. So here I am teaching guys how to do it. But before I talk any further, let's go ahead and check out what the final result will look like after this tutorial. Alright, so now you have seen what we're gonna be doing today. So let's go ahead and break down the effect itself, so you have an idea what we're actually doing today. So this is mainly in three parts. This tutorial or the effect is three-parted. We have the obvious, the vibration effect, the phasing effect, and it's a nasty trick for Zoom because then he can walk through walls and stuff, so that's not cool, but it's a cool effect to create, so that's a bonus. Then we have the lightning, which is the main part of the tutorial, and this is the two-part effect. We have the cool organic lightning creeping up my body, so I'm going to show you techniques and methods how to do this automated animation, how it creeps off on my body, and it's controlled and restricted on just my body and not just flying around everywhere. And then we have the specular reflections. And what I mean with this is we go look to see where this lightning creates this highlight with the glowing on my body. You can see the texture of the clothing underneath it, and this is really cool when it creates these textures, is that it implies that it's actually connected to the body, so it's not just a soft glow everywhere, even if how good the glow is, but when you can see the clothing, it really just adds on to the effect. So those are the things we're gonna do today, and let's just skip all the chit chat and let's start the tutorial right now. Alright, I have opened up a new composition and loaded up my footage here, and this is something I won't show how to do. I was on a green screen, I keyed myself out, I put myself in this 3D set, but if you want my footage to train on, you can have it in the link down below. But if you want to do this effect with the phasing, then you need to shoot your guy at a green screen so you can key yourself out. That's something which is necessary, so keep that in mind. But you can have my footage to train on in the description down below, so don't worry. Alright, let's start creating the lighting itself. So let's go ahead and create a new solid. Control Y to find a new solid. Let's call this lightning. Lightning. Okay, it's not even spelled right, but you get the point. And why I'm doing the lightning first is only because I just don't want to try to apply lightning effects when my guy is blurry. It's just easier on my eyes. We can do it in the end. So okay, so when we have the lightning layer selected, what we're going to go ahead and do is add the advanced lightning effect here. And I was using the VC effects console from Video Copilot. It's a free for to download, but they have nothing to do with this episode. It's a really cool plugin to just have all your effects in a shortcut, so you don't have to find them here. Alright, so when you open up the advanced lighting effect, this is pretty much what you get. You get this lightning and this purple bluish glow. And there's a lot of stuff you can do with the advanced lighting effect, but we are not gonna dive in super deep into what all you can do with this effect, but you can do so much. So let's just go ahead and go to the glow settings and let's kill the glow. The glow is so ugly, which is built into the advanced lighting effect. We're just gonna go create our own glow, since that's gonna be so much nicer. Alright, with this we can do a couple of things. If we hit play, the lightning is static. We don't see any electrical flow here. It's not so cool. So let's go ahead and give us some life to our electricity before we start to add some details and shape it a bit. So let's go to this conductivity state parameter, and this is basically how you can boost or decrease the voltage of your lightning. So that's pretty cool. Let's go ahead and make an automated animation with using an expression. Sorry. So let's hit Alt click the stopwatch to get the expression controls, and let's time in time and then star for times and 2. So we're just gonna animate this animation by the factor of 2. So it's always multiplying this automated animation by the factor of 2. So that just adds a little bit of this electrical flow here, so we have a base animation to go with. Then what we can do is add some differential to the scale or the thickness of our lightning here. So you go to the core settings over here, and we can just bump up the core radius to something like 3% here, or like by the factor of 3, to get just a little bit more thickness to our lightning. All right, but then we can also animate this. We can do an automated animation with an expression to this too, just to give some more organic to this lightning, because a real lightning is never the same thickness everywhere. So let's go ahead and change that. So let's go ahead and alt click the stopwatch on core radius, and then let's type in the expression wiggle with the factors of 7.3 or comma 3 close bracket. And what these numbers mean is 7 times a second, it will change this wiggle animation by the factor of 3. So if we now go ahead and check out how this looks like, we can see how it adds a bit more like fluidity, like it's changing the radius and the voltage, and it just looks pretty cool here. And if you're working in a resolution of third or quarter, you don't maybe see so much difference, but if you go to full or half, you can see how it really changes the thickness of the lightning. Alright, so let's go ahead and show you now the trick of how you can restrict this lightning to only your body. So now you can see, if we change the direction and the lightning, you can see it just moves in a straight line everywhere. So I want to restrict this so it's just affecting my body here. And the cool thing with using the advanced lighting effect is that you can actually use masks to restrict the lighting path. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this. Let's go ahead and select our lighting layer and click G on our keyboard to get the pen tool here. And let's go ahead and draw this random mask on my body here. Like this. And the reason why I do this really random mask is for a really good reason. If I want to use this as an obstacle for the lightning not to pass, if we would just make a circle, then in the end result, when we can see the lightning circulating, we can see just a big black hole they're not hitting. So that will look really unnatural. So creating this random shape makes the lightning able to go to these small creeks and just give us some a little bit more fluidity to this whole thing. All right, so now, but as you noticed, when I create the mask, it's not stopping the lightning anyway. So how you do this is you go to this alpha obstacle parameter and just turn that up to 100%. And bam, then you can see the mask is not letting that lightning pass it. And so this is cool. Now we can use this to control our lightning. Then we can put this directional point here in the middle of the mask. So anywhere we move now the lightning's origin, it's moving according to that. So it's always directed to the middle, and that mask is stopping it from moving further. Pretty cool. Let's go ahead and change some settings here. We can go to turbulence and down it to 0.7. And you can always tweak these out however you want. You can put the forking to 100% here. And let's take the decay to 50% here. So we're having this kind of animation here. All right. So as you can see in the animation right now, when we look at this, you can see how the lightning starts bending in this really weird way. And we have a really simple fix, and we can fix that. We can go to the expert settings and turn up the termination threshold, or turn down to something like 4%, and that will just cut off that access point and giving just like this small direct contact it's hitting me. And this will be helpful in the end when we start animating some specular highlights for our effect. So that's real cool. Okay, so now we have our base of the electrical flow and everything, but now I want to start animate this or automate the animation so it looks like a random electrical flow is happening throughout my body. So how I do this is using a wiggle expression for the origin. Okay, so let's begin with that and I will explain more further on. Let's go ahead and alt-click the origin, the origin tab here, or stopwatch, and let's type in this expression wiggle, open brackets, and I want to change this factor from 3 times a second, so 3 comma, by the factor of 700, so 700, close bracket. So when now I will look at this, you can see how it jumps around really quickly, pretty much everywhere. And here's a little trick I want to tell you guys, how you want to control this even though it's happening through a wiggle expression. So if you select the lightning layer, the lightning effect here, and you select the origin point and you put it, for example, here on the left side, and then play it around, then it will basically mainly jump by the factor of 700 only at the left side where we put the origin. Or then we could do a put on the right side, and this will do the exact same thing. It will animate that factor of 700 wiggle mainly on the right side. And also, depending on how long you put it, it will also affect how it will jump around. If you put it closer to the middle, it will jump around more radically. But if you put it really far away, then it will be a smaller and more subtle movement here. Okay. So let's go ahead and take that back, and I'm gonna animate this to basically to both my hands and my torso separately. So I'm gonna put somewhere around here next to my head on the right side. So it's doing something like this. Also here we can go ahead and manipulate the masking. So since I want it to be basically and mainly controlled here throughout my right side here, so it's not just cutting on my arm, so we are letting it go to my torso also a little bit, so like this. So this is the main concept how we're going to be working today. So the next thing to do after we have done this is we go ahead and pre-comp this lightning effect and check, and remember to check this move all attributes. And let's just call this lightning comp, and that's my left arm, so left for L for left, for example. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and create a mask restricting this whole effect layer. So let's go ahead and take the G key to get a pen tool. And while we do this, because I don't want the lightning to be seen how it jumps around my body, I just want to see it here in the middle of my body here. So let's go ahead and create this mask around my arm and torso, like this, so that restricts the lightning now to this mask. But to make it more smooth and more seamless, let's click on F for feathering. So let's feather it out a bit so I have more smooth edges, but then I don't want it to spill outside my body too much. So let's go ahead double M to get the mask expansion. And let's just turn that down just a touch. So now if we look at this, we can see the lightning happening just on my right side here. And because you can tweak this however you want with the duration and the wiggle speeds. So if you want less lightning, for example, in my example here, I didn't have too much of it. I had just a subtle amount, and on a different area, you can control the masking in a way so it's not too much on the shoulders. If you want more on the body and torso, so you can also do this. So you have a lot of expansion here, but I'll just, for the sake of this tutorial, we'll keep now it on the middle. Alright, so what I will do is jump into this comp here, and let's go to lightning comp, go to the core settings. Let's change this to something like a bluish color, something like this. Let's jump back so we can see that blue lighting happening. All right, so now let's go ahead and repeat that exact same process, but now to the left arm. So how I will do this is, instead of just duplicating this layer, which would be cool another way, but if you go ahead and make changes, for example, this time I will want the animation to happen on the left side and not on the right. So if I just duplicate this comp, change the origin to the left side, that will also affect this first comp. Since it's a duplication, it will take the information from there too. How do we work around this? It's pretty easy. Go to the project, find that lightning comp L, duplicate it here in the project panel. So we have a duplicate here in the project panel, and let's change this to R for right hand. And then you just drop it in here on top of the lightning comp L. And this is the exact same effect with the exact same animation. But now if we go ahead and open this, go to the lightning, go to effects, find the lightning effect, and put this on the left side, go back to the Zoom tutorial comp, then we can see it's adding from the left side here. So that's really cool. We have that too. So by duplicating, it's really good to know. If you duplicate a comp in the project panel and drop it in, then you can use two exact same comps, but change the parameters between those comps inside them without them copying them over to another one. I have done so many motion graphics fails when I duplicated a comp and then it changed everything according, all the comps with the settings I changed to one comp. So I hope that made any sense. All right, so now in the same way, I just want to add a mask to restrict this to my left area. So I just take the pen tool and add to my left side. Let's take some feathering and take the mask expansion down. All right, this looks pretty cool. I would want this left side to also go more in the middle of my body. So how I can do this is go inside the lightning comp. Let's go ahead and take some of these points, just delete them. So it has the possibility to go here in the middle. So when we go back to the Zoom tutorial, we can see it's having the possibility to go more in the middle of my body. So this is the basic thing of how to create this lightning here. So let's go ahead and move on to create those specular highlights. So, but you can add always more lightning. You can duplicate these, more lighting here at the bottom and in the head if you want to. I'm just showing you the basic concept so you can then experiment on your own. All right. So now let's go ahead and take both of the lightning layers and select both of these and pre-comp them and call this just lightning. So we have one comp that controls all the lightning effects in one. Awesome. Then what we do is we go ahead and duplicate this lightning layer and rename that to specular, lightning specular. And with this layer, I want to extract all those hot spots or the brightest spots from this effect. So how I can do this is I can go ahead and find the curves effect here, and we'll go down to alpha. Let's go ahead and solo the layer so we can see more what we're doing here. And drop the alpha. So that will drop basically the luminosity and transparency, so we're leaving like the biggest highlights here. So if you take a look at here, we can see those little specular hotspots moving around. But to brighten this up, we can go ahead and duplicate this curve adjustments layer. We can reset that, and let's go back to the alpha. And let's see, I got a good frame here. Then we can now, in this duplicate, we can boost the alpha. So we're now boosting what we're seeing here is just to add it a bit more brightness to this. And now you can see this little electrical specular highlight stuff happening, which is exactly what we want. Next thing, let's go ahead and start blurring out to create this a really cool glow on it. So let's go ahead and find box blur, fast box blur here, and let's take just the horizontal aspect and let's blur it out by something like 10 pixels. We can begin with that. Let's go ahead and duplicate this and take, instead of for horizontal, let's go to vertical and have something similar here. But the thing is, now when we use the blurs, it will actually fade away a little bit. We don't see them as well. So how we can do this and change this is to go ahead and add a solid composite. And the solid composite effect is really good, since you can basically create a solid without creating a solid, which is just in effects. Let's take it to black here, so it gets a black background, and then we can go ahead and add an effect called exposure, which is really cool. But now we can boost the exposure so we can see more of our stuff here, so we can see this little glow we're creating here. All right, so now if we unsole this layer, so the solid composite will of course make a black background. So let's just put it to additive to get with the black. But now we can see those small specular highlights happening in the lightning. That's just a little add-on, but it looks really good. So next thing to do is to add some texture, to add that specular highlight reflecting on the texture of my clothes. And how I will do this, to go to the project, I have here this wrinkled texture, textile texture. Just googled it so you can find something similar. Let's go ahead and scale it up and rotate it, something like this, so it just fits on top of my body here, something like this. And then let's go ahead and put this lightning specular layer to Luma matte. And what that does, if we go now and see solo both these layers and go put this to full resolution, we can see what's happening. So when we see this glow, you can see they're having the texture of that texture we just put. So that will just add on when we look at the effect here. Look at the effect. So it just has a little bit of that texture of that clothing. But we don't stop here, we're gonna make it more gradual so we can see it more. So what we're gonna do now is go ahead and select the lightning specular and that texture layer. Let's go ahead and change the name to texture. So select both the layers and click Ctrl D for duplication. And now let's go ahead and rename the specular layer to diffusion. So what I want to do with this is go to the effects controls, and here we can control everything regarding them. So we can now, like, solve this layer for now. We can boost the exposure up like real much, and then we can just use the blur radius and let's increase the blurring. And here you can see better the texture we are putting here. So we put some exposure, we can see the texture they're having here. If we also take our specular map, we can see this what kind of cool lighting artifacts we're creating in them. The specular glows and this bigger diffused glow. This will look really nice on our project here. So let's unsolo the layers like this, and let's see what we have here. So now when they're moving, you can see actually lighting up the texture of the clothing itself. So that looks really nice. So we can take the diffusion ones, these two layers, and duplicate them one more time. This time renaming the diffusion to point. And what we're gonna do with this is to add a little hotspot for the effect happening here. So let's find good framing here, and let's just take the blur radius to something like 10 for both of these, so we can just see to make this a little hotspot, so just you can see more of the contact happening on the body. can actually go to the diffusion and add some more exposure there so we can see more of it and have an even greater spread. So you can see even better how it artifacts with my body. That's looking pretty good. Alright, once we have these, now we are ready to start moving on the glow itself for the lighting effect. So let's take the lightning comp and move it on top of everything else here. And then let's go ahead and start putting some glow here. So let's go ahead and find the glow effect. And I like to do it, put the threshold to really low, something like 0%, that's enough. And take the intensity way down, hold the control, put it to 0.0, and then hold the control key and start sliding it a bit to the left. Just get a settle glow. It's something like 0.1. And then just let's bump up the radius to something like 40, something around there. All right. Now let's go ahead and duplicate this glow effect. Bump up the radius to something like something around 100. And duplicate it one more time to get an even greater, something like 300. Yeah. That just adds a really soft glow for the whole lightning itself. Another really cool trick to add a little bit more detail and make it look a little bit more natural, the lightning itself, is to use something called a vector blur. So let's go ahead and find the vector blur effect here. Vector blur, CC vector blur. And the key is here to add just a slight amount, not too much, just a slight amount. It can help to put the resolution to full so you can actually see what you're doing here. So just a real subtle amount, just to get these really hard edges, but also have these soft edges to work with. That would just add some bit more organic feel to that electricity itself. So, all right, so that was pretty much it for the lightning itself. I have a couple more tricks to make it look even better, but now let's go ahead and focus on that phasing effect. So what I just did is I jumped in to my comp elements, which is my background, which you get when you download this footage. I have my comp here. When you can see, it's just me separated since I used the green screen, so I can just affect my layer here. So that's exactly what I'm gonna do. So what I will do here is I will go ahead and add a fast box blur. So let's go ahead and find that that box blur. Let's go just to the horizontal and let's put the iterations to something like 10, and then let's bump up the blur radius to something like 9 or 10. 10 looks pretty good. This kind of blurriness. But I want it to look like it's actually flickering and animating, like it's moving super fast. How we will do this is I will use again a wiggle expression, but not in the way you think. We're just gonna evolve it on a little bit. It's gonna be a little bit longer of an expression, but I'm gonna tell you why I do it. So let's go ahead and click on the blur radius, the alt stopwatch, and this is what we're gonna do, because I don't want to have the blurriness go down to 0 when we're doing the wiggle animation. If you just add a really simple wiggle animation, I can demonstrate this. Take wiggle, and let's take the blur radius to something like every 5 seconds. It will add by the factor of 10, something like this. Let's see how it looks like. You can see it looks. Let's go and put that to a third so we have a little better. It looks good, but as you can see, it can drop down so it's not blurring at all. So that can happen when we do this, and that's not exactly what we want here. So by using this expression, amp space equals 3, is every time we use the value amp, it's using the value and the factor of 3. Let's see the return key, and now type in wiggle, open bracket, use the factor of 2, comma, amp close bracket space plus space amp. And this basically this plus amp in the end means that we have the wiggle expression, the 2.amp. So basically it's 2,3 in this case, and while hitting the plus amp means that it will never go underneath the factor 3. So when we hit this and look at this, we have our blurry animation happening, but it's never going beneath the factor of 3. So then we'll just add that blurriness. And then you can just make different kind of values. We can take the amp to 5 and see how that will change. Then we have a little bit more gradual thing happening here. We can also change the wiggle amount to 1, see what that does. Okay, but that looks really cool. So now we have our blur effect happening, so it looks like he's moving really quickly. Down the iterations to something like 7 if we want to. It's just a matter of playing around to see what really fits your needs, but I feel like these settings really work for this effect here. Alright, so here is what we have so far. We have our phasing effect, we have our lightning. Well, we can do one thing more that really adds to this lightning as a whole, and I really dig this one. This is gonna be a real cool one. So let's take all your lightning layers, all your lightning and your specular layers, and pre-compose them to, for example, lights with caps. So you just know that this is all your lightning relevant things in one place. Then let's go ahead and put that to additive. And this time I'm going to use a really simple effect, but it's really powerful in this case. It's the echo effect. Drop that in here, and that will make like an echo of copies for this lightning effect. But it can really easily go wrong and look unrealistic, so this is what I'm going to do. I will take the number of echoes to something like 5. I found that will work really well, so we have 5 copies happening. But then we'll have a decay of something like 50%. Oh, 0,50. So that will just add a little this by putting the decay down to 0.50, we'll add just like a fade, so it's not so intensive, and that would just add a little bit more electrical current inside my body. We can also take the starting intensity to something at 0.8, so it's not so super harsh. And now let's go ahead and put a small cache render to see what we have. Alright, so this is pretty much what we're having here. We're having our cool blurring affecting happening, the cool phasing vibration happening there. I made a couple changes during this render. I changed the amplification goes by the factor of 300, so it's really vibrant, the vibration there. And then this is the lighting here. For my original example, it's really gradual. This is some big lightnings, but I just want to show you the method and how I created this. And I think I'm positive that you learned that too, so that's really cool. The only thing to do here left is to put your favorite color grade on here, so you can see our color grading applied to this. So thanks guys so much for watching this video. If you did enjoy this tutorial, please leave a like and a comment down below. And please, hey, request down below what you want to see in the future, but then you can also decide what I will do. But hey, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. My name is VK, signing out for now.